The sun crept over the horizon, painting the quiet suburban street in shades of amber and gold. Marcus Jenkins stretched his arms above his head, relishing the gentle pop of his shoulders as he stared out his kitchen window. His morning routine rarely varied: coffee brewing, toast in the toaster, and a few minutes of quiet contemplation before the day truly began. This particular morning felt different, though. The empty house next door, vacant for nearly 6 months, had shown signs of life yesterday. Moving trucks had arrived, though they looked oddly sleek and hummed rather than rumbled. The movers themselves had been tall, slender figures who moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Of course, Marcus knew why. Everyone did. The Valorant Cultural Exchange Program had been front-page news for months. After first contact 3 years ago, the peaceful visitors from the Valora system had slowly integrated into major cities. Now, they were expanding their presence into suburban areas like Meadowbrook Lane. "So, I've got an alien neighbor," Marcus murmured to himself, sipping his coffee. At 32, he'd seen enough of the world to be intrigued rather than alarmed. He taught high school history, and if anything, having a Valorant neighbor might give him some first-hand cultural insights to share with his students. As if summoned by his thoughts, movement caught his eye. A figure emerged from the house next door, tall and willowy, with skin that seemed to shimmer with a pale blue iridescence in the morning light. The Valorant wore what appeared to be a form-fitting bodysuit that changed colors subtly as they moved, currently shifting between soft greens and blues. Marcus watched as his new neighbor approached a rosebush with what looked like scientific curiosity, bending to examine it closely. After a moment's hesitation, he decided neighborliness trumped shyness. Setting down his coffee mug, he slipped on his sandals and headed out the side door. "Good morning," he called, keeping his voice friendly, but not too loud. He'd read that Valorans had sensitive hearing. The figure straightened immediately, turning to face him. Up close, Marcus could see that his neighbor had large, almond-shaped eyes of a deep violet color, and what might be hair, but looked more like tendrils of silvery energy pulled back in an elegant arrangement. "Morning of goodness to you," the Valoran replied, the words perfectly understandable but oddly arranged. "I am called Zer. This dwelling is now mine for occupation." Marcus smiled, extending his hand. "I'm Marcus Jenkins. Welcome to Meadowbrook Lane." Zer looked at the extended hand with momentary confusion before carefully reaching out. Instead of grasping Marcus's hand, however, a faint shimmer appeared where their skin should have touched. "Apologies," Zer said quickly, withdrawing. "Bioshield is active. Habit of protection." With visible concentration, the shimmer faded, and Zer extended a slender hand again. The touch was cool and smooth, almost like touching polished stone that somehow gave slightly. "No problem at all," Marcus assured them. "I should be the one apologizing. I should have asked before initiating contact." Zer tilted their head. Her head, Marcus corrected himself mentally, recognizing the feminine markers that the exchange program educational materials had outlined. "You have plant life," Zer observed, gesturing to the rosebush. "It grows from dirt." The last word was spoken with a mixture of fascination and slight distaste. Marcus nodded, crouching down beside the bush. "Soil, yes. Don't plants grow in soil on Valora?" "Energy fields," Zer explained, making a graceful motion with her hands. "Plants absorb resonance patterns. No, dirt required." She pronounced the word carefully, as though testing it. "Would you like to touch it?" Marcus offered, gesturing to the soil. "It's actually quite amazing stuff when you think about it. Full of microorganisms, nutrients." Zer hesitated, then crouched beside him. The shimmering barrier appeared again as her hand hovered over the ground, but with visible concentration, she dispelled it and gingerly touched the soil with one finger. "Strange," she murmured, Primitive, but alive in its way. She rubbed her fingers together, examining the particles with intense focus. Marcus watched her with growing amusement and interest. There was something endearing about seeing Earth's mundane features through new eyes. Would you like a tour of the neighborhood sometime? I've lived here all my life. I could show you around. Zer stood, brushing her hands together to remove the soil. Yes, information exchange would be valuable. I am here to learn Earth customs. She looked at his house curiously. Your dwelling. It is made of processed plant matter and mineral composites? Wood and brick, yes, Marcus chuckled. Would you like to see inside sometime? Inside would be acceptable, Zer replied. Her gaze drifted to his front door, then to his windows with an intensity that made Marcus wonder if she could somehow see through them. Your privacy barriers are transparent. This is permitted. The windows? Yes, though I have curtains I can close when I want privacy. Zer nodded seriously. Valoran dwellings adjust opacity based on occupant preference. Bioshields extend to habitation spaces. A beeping sound emanated from somewhere within Zer's clothing, and she straightened. Time marker alert. I must return to arrange my possessions. She made a formal gesture, hands moving in a fluid pattern before her chest. Gratitude for soil introduction. Marcus Jenkins. Just Marcus is fine, he replied with a smile. And you're welcome. Let me know if you need any help settling in. Zer repeated the gesture and turned, walking back to her house with that same fluid grace. Marcus watched her go, already formulating ways to make his new neighbor feel welcome. Perhaps a housewarming gift? Though what would an alien appreciate? He made a mental note to look up Valoran customs when he got back inside. The following morning, Marcus overslept. His alarm had failed to go off, leaving him with barely 20 minutes to shower, dress, and get to school. Cursing under his breath, he rushed through his routine, skipping breakfast entirely. He had just pulled on his pants and was reaching for a shirt when the doorbell rang. "Coming!" he called, forgetting his shirtless state as he hurried to the door, buttoning his pants as he went. He pulled the door open to find Zer standing on his porch, holding what appeared to be a shimmering, translucent container. "Marcus," she began, then abruptly fell silent, her violet eyes widening dramatically as they fixed on his bare chest. The container she held slipped from her suddenly slack fingers, though it didn't fall to the ground but rather hovered in midair, suspended by some invisible force. It took Marcus a moment to register what was happening, and when he did, he felt heat rise to his face. "Oh, I'm so sorry," he stammered, instinctively crossing his arms over his chest. "I overslept and was rushing to get dressed. Just give me a second." But Zer wasn't listening. She had taken a step backward, her bioshield flaring visibly around her entire body, glowing with an intensity that hadn't been present during their previous interaction. Her expression was difficult to read, but if Marcus had to guess, he would say she looked utterly shocked. "Exposed dermal layer," she finally managed, her voice higher than before. "No protective covering. You are damaged, ill." Marcus blinked, confusion momentarily overriding his embarrassment. "What? No, I'm fine. I just didn't have my shirt on yet. I was in the middle of getting dressed when you rang the doorbell." Zer's posture remained rigid, her shield still glowing brightly. "Intentional exposure? This is permitted?" Understanding dawned on Marcus. "Oh, on Earth, it's normal for humans to be, well, not fully clothed sometimes, especially in private. Our clothes aren't like your bioshields. They're just fabric we wear, not part of our bodies or our protection systems." Zer's shield dimmed slightly, though it remained visible. "You remove protective layers. Regularly? By choice?" "Yes," Marcus confirmed, increasingly aware of how strange this must seem to her. "Look, let me grab a shirt real quick, and then we can talk about this, okay?" Without waiting for a response, he retreated inside, grabbing the first t-shirt he could find and pulling it over his head as he returned to the door. Zur still stood there, though her shield had dimmed further, now just a faint shimmer around her form. "Better?" he asked, spreading his arms to display his now-clothed torso. "Better," Zur agreed, though her voice still held a note of uncertainty. The container she had brought still hovered between them, and she seemed to suddenly remember it, reaching out to grasp it again. "I brought nutritional sustenance, traditional Valoran welcome offering." Marcus accepted the container carefully. Inside, what looked like glowing crystal fragments arranged in a spiral pattern pulsed with gentle light. "Thank you. That's very thoughtful. Would you like to come in? I have a few minutes before I need to leave for work." Zur hesitated, then nodded. "Brief visitation acceptable." Once inside, Marcus gestured for Zur to sit on the couch while he placed the container on his coffee table. "So," he began, trying to find a casual way to address what had just happened. "I take it Valorans don't usually see each other without coverings?" "Never," Zur stated emphatically. "Bioshields are permanent from maturation. They regulate temperature, protect from contaminants, provide identification markers. Removal would be—" She searched for a word, her tendrils of silvery energy hair rippling with the effort. "Intimate. Reserved for medical necessity or profound closeness." "I see," Marcus said, understanding dawning. "So me answering the door without a shirt would be like—" He tried to think of an equivalent that wouldn't sound too alarming. "Like me inviting you to a very personal ceremony without warning you first." Zur considered this, her head tilting. Perhaps, though more physical in implication. Her gaze flickered briefly to his chest, now covered by the t-shirt, then away again quickly. On Valora, such exposure would indicate either grave emergency or deliberate invitation to deepest intimacy. Marcus felt his face grow warm again. "I'm really sorry. I had no idea. On Earth, while we do wear clothes for modesty and protection, seeing someone without a shirt, especially a man, isn't necessarily intimate. At beaches or swimming pools, for instance, it's completely normal." "Fascinating," Zur murmured, her initial shock apparently giving way to academic interest. "Cultural norms regarding physical exposure vary significantly. Then, this will require adjustment in my understanding." Marcus glanced at his watch and winced. "I hate to cut this short, but I really do need to get to work. I teach at the local high school, and my first class starts in 15 minutes. Educational facility," Zur nodded. "Important function. Will you return after completion of duties?" "Around 4 o'clock, yes? Perhaps continued discussion then? Many questions remain about human customs." Marcus smiled. "I'd like that. And again, I'm sorry about the misunderstanding." Zur rose gracefully. "Misunderstanding creates opportunity for learning. This is valued in Valoran culture." She made the same formal gesture from the day before. "Until later time, Marcus." After Zur left, Marcus finished getting ready in a rush, his mind still processing their interaction. As he drove to school, he couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it. His first real interaction with his alien neighbor, and he'd managed to commit what was apparently a major cultural faux pas within minutes. The school day passed in a blur of lectures and student questions, many of which centered around the Valoran exchange program. News that one had moved onto Meadowbrook Lane had apparently spread quickly. "What do they look like up close, Mr. Jenkins?" asked Ellie Mason, a particularly inquisitive sophomore. "Pretty much like you've seen in the news footage," Marcus replied carefully. "Tall, with a slight blue tint to their skin, and what looks like glowing hair." Do they have, like, superpowers? Asked Jason Thompson from the back row. Marcus shook his head. Not superpowers. No. Different technologies and biological adaptations. They have what they call bioshields, kind of like a personal force field that they can control. That's basically a superpower, Jason insisted. It's a natural evolutionary development for their species, Marcus corrected. Just like our opposable thumbs or complex vocal cords might seem special to them. By the time he returned home, Marcus had fielded dozens of questions and was actually looking forward to learning more from Zer herself. He changed into more comfortable clothes, making very sure he was fully dressed this time, and waited for her arrival. Precisely at 4:30, his doorbell rang. Zer stood on his porch, now wearing what appeared to be a different bodysuit. This one, shifting through shades of amber and gold that complemented the evening sunlight. "Welcome back," Marcus greeted her, stepping aside to let her enter. "Would you like something to drink? I have water, coffee, tea." "Water acceptable," Zer replied, following him to the kitchen. She watched with evident curiosity as he filled a glass from the tap. "Unprocessed hydration directly from infrastructure? No purification?" "Our tap water is already purified," Marcus explained, handing her the glass. "Though some people do filter it further or buy bottled water." Zer accepted the glass but didn't immediately drink. Instead, she seemed to be analyzing it, perhaps through her bioshield. After a moment, she took a small sip, and Marcus could have sworn he saw the water glow briefly as it passed her lips. "Acceptable mineral content," she declared. "Different from Valoran water, less energetic." They moved to the living room, where Marcus had prepared a small array of everyday objects he thought might interest Zer, based on her earlier curiosity about Earth materials. "I thought we might start with some basics," he suggested, gesturing to the items laid out on the coffee table. "Things humans use every day that might be different from what you're used to." Zer leaned forward, examining the objects with open curiosity. "Earth artifacts? Purpose?" Marcus picked up a simple leather wallet. "This holds identification, currency, though we mostly use digital payments now, and cards for various services." He opened it to show her the contents. Zer studied it, then touched it gingerly. "Animal dermis," she observed. "Processed for durability." "Leather. Yes. Some people prefer synthetic materials these days, but leather has been used for thousands of years." "On Valora, we use no animal products," Zer informed him. "All materials synthesized or grown." Marcus nodded, setting the wallet aside and picking up a ceramic mug. "This is for drinking hot beverages, made from clay that's been shaped and fired in a kiln, essentially baked at high temperatures until it hardens." "Primitive but effective technology," Zer commented, taking the mug and examining it closely. "Heat resistance impressive for simple material." They continued this way through several items. A book, information storage using processed plant material, a smartphone, primitive but functional quantum interface device, and a wristwatch, time measurement dependent on mechanical movement rather than consciousness synchronization. As the evening progressed, their conversation flowed more naturally. Zer's speech patterns began to adjust, becoming less formal and adopting more Earth-standard syntax. Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying her company and her fresh perspective on things he'd always taken for granted. "May I ask about this morning's incident?" Zer inquired eventually, setting down the apple she had been examining. "Human comfort with physical exposure remains confusing." Marcus nodded, having anticipated this question. "Of course. I did some reading during lunch today about Valoran customs to better understand your reaction. Your bioshields serve multiple functions, right? Protection, temperature regulation, social signaling, and intimacy regulation." "Correct," Zer confirmed. "Bioshields form during adolescence, becoming increasingly sophisticated with age and experience. They are, expression of self. To lower one's shield is to show ultimate trust or vulnerability. Whereas for humans, our clothing serves some similar purposes: protection, social signaling, temperature regulation, but isn't literally part of us. We change clothes regularly for hygiene, comfort, and social situations. And exposure of skin is contextual in acceptability, Zer questioned. Exactly, Marcus said. In some contexts, like beaches or swimming pools, more skin exposure is normal. In professional or formal settings, less exposure is expected. And there are cultural and regional variations too. Zer seemed to process this information carefully. So your unshielded, unclothed appearance this morning was not an invitation to intimacy, merely a practical state during transition between clothing options. Precisely, Marcus confirmed, relieved at her understanding. I would never intentionally make you uncomfortable that way. Appreciation for clarification, Zer said, her energy hair rippling in what Marcus was beginning to recognize as a sign of relaxation. Cultural differences require patience to navigate. They certainly do, Marcus agreed. Would it help if I explained more about human clothing norms, so you know what to expect in different situations? Yes, Zer said, leaning forward with evident interest. Knowledge prevents misunderstanding. For the next hour, Marcus explained various human clothing contexts, showing examples on his tablet. Everything from business attire to casual wear, swimwear to formal evening clothes. Zer absorbed it all with remarkable quickness, occasionally asking insightful questions that made Marcus reconsider norms he'd always taken for granted. Fascinating that covering serves social hierarchy indicators, she observed, as he showed her the difference between casual and formal business attire. Similar to BioShield color harmonics on Valora. Perhaps, as evening deepened into night, Marcus realized they'd been talking for hours. I've kept you much longer than I intended, he said apologetically. Time well utilized for cultural exchange, Zer assured him. Tomorrow, perhaps you visit my dwelling? Learn of Valoran customs? I'd like that very much, Marcus replied sincerely. As he walked her to the door, Zer paused, turning to face him. Query: is it permissible to observe your dwelling when you are absent? Through transparent barriers, windows. Marcus considered this. Generally, we consider that a bit invasive of privacy. If you're curious about something specific, you could text me. He quickly showed her how to use the communication app they'd set up on her Earth-compatible device. Communication preferred to observation. Understood. Zer made her formal gesture again, though this time it seemed slightly less rigid. Gratitude for education, Marcus. Thank you for your patience with my cultural blunder this morning, he replied with a smile. After Zer left, Marcus found himself reflecting on their conversation with a sense of satisfaction. Despite the awkward beginning, they'd established what felt like the foundation of a genuine friendship. The cultural exchange program, he decided, was already proving more enlightening than he could have imagined. The next morning, a Saturday, thankfully, Marcus awoke to a series of text messages from Zer. Morning cycle commenced. Is entry to garden area permitted during your unconsciousness period? Fascination with soil organisms continues. Wish to observe further. Apologies for communication during rest cycle. Will await conscious response. Marcus smiled, texting back, Good morning. Feel free to explore the garden anytime. I'm awake now and will be out shortly. After a quick shower and breakfast, he headed outside to find Zer crouched beside his vegetable patch, her bioshield seemingly modified to allow direct contact with the soil while still maintaining what must be essential protection. She looked up as he approached, her energy hair rippling in what he now recognized as excitement. Marcus, observation confirms complex ecosystem within soil matrix, microorganisms, invertebrates, mineral interactions, all supporting plant life without technological intervention. Brilliant adaptation. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Marcus found himself smiling broadly. It is pretty amazing when you think about it. Want me to show you how to plant something? Zare's eyes widened. Participate in organic cultivation? Yes. For the next hour, Marcus taught Zare how to plant tomato seedlings, explaining concepts of spacing, watering, and sunlight requirements. Her questions were insightful, often making connections to energy field cultivation on Valora that made Marcus see Earth agriculture in a new light. On Valora, plants respond to harmonic frequencies, she explained as she carefully patted soil around a seedling. Each species requires specific resonance pattern. Cultivation specialists train for decades to master proper frequencies. That sounds much more sophisticated than digging in the dirt, Marcus admitted. Different, Zare corrected, looking up at him. Not superior. This method, connection to planetary surface, physical manipulation of growth medium, has grounding quality. Literally. She made a sound that Marcus realized with delight was a laugh, a musical trill that seemed to shimmer in the air. After finishing in the garden, they cleaned up, and Marcus followed Zare to her home for his promised introduction to Valoran customs. Approaching her front door, he noticed there was no visible handle or lock. Biorecognition provides access, Zare explained, placing her hand against the smooth surface. The door simply dissolved, revealing the interior. Marcus blinked in surprise. That's convenient. Stepping inside was like entering another world. What from the outside appeared to be a standard suburban home had been transformed. The walls seemed to pulse gently with subtle light, and instead of traditional furniture, there were shaped platforms that appeared to be made of the same shimmering material as Zare's bioshield. The air felt different too, slightly more humid and carrying a faint, not unpleasant scent that reminded Marcus of ozone after a thunderstorm. Welcome to Valoran dwelling space, Zare said, making a sweeping gesture. Adapted for Earth environment but maintaining essential elements for comfort? It's beautiful, Marcus said honestly, turning slowly to take in the surroundings. So different from what I expected. Different from external appearance, Zare agreed. Conformity to neighborhood aesthetic maintained for harmony, while interior serves Valoran needs. She guided him through the house, explaining various features. What would be a kitchen in a human home was instead a nutrient processing chamber, where crystalline structures, similar to the welcome gift she'd brought him, were grown and infused with energy. The living room contained a platform that could reconfigure into various shapes for different types of rest and meditation. Most fascinating to Marcus was the knowledge immersion chamber, a small room where holographic information swirled in complex patterns. This is how you learn, he asked, watching as symbols and images flowed around them. One method, Zare confirmed. Direct neural interface through BioShield allows rapid information absorption. Less sequential than your text-based methods. As they continued the tour, Marcus noticed something odd. Despite the home's many rooms, there didn't appear to be anything resembling a bedroom. Zare, he asked carefully, where do you sleep? Regenerative suspension occurs in meditation chamber, she explained, leading him to what a human might consider a sunroom, though the glass walls and ceiling were tinted with shifting colors. In the center was a platform that hovered slightly above the floor, surrounded by what looked like suspended droplets of light. BioShield expands, creating isolation from physical environment, while consciousness connects to collective memory harmonics. You connect to other Valorans while sleeping, Marcus asked, fascinated. Not direct communication, Zare clarified. Access to shared ancestral knowledge. Cultural continuity maintained through regenerative cycle. After completing the tour, they settled in the main living area, where Zare demonstrated how to consume the crystalline nutrient structures she'd shown him earlier. For Marcus, she had prepared what appeared to be a shimmering liquid in a container shaped from the same material as her furniture. Adapted for human physiology, she assured him. Contains elements compatible with your nutritional requirements. Cautiously, Marcus took a sip. The liquid was cool and slightly sweet, with a complex flavor that reminded him vaguely of honeydew melon, but with subtle notes he couldn't identify. "This is delicious," he said with genuine surprise. "Gratification at acceptance," Zer replied, her energy hair rippling. She hesitated, then asked, "Query on human custom. Is it appropriate to request demonstration of clothing transition? Process remains unclear." Marcus nearly choked on his drink. "You mean, you want to see how humans change clothes?" "For educational purposes," Zer clarified quickly. "Understanding privacy boundaries essential for cultural integration." Marcus considered how to respond. Clearly, what seemed like a simple, mundane activity to him represented something profoundly different in Valoran culture. "I think that might be a bit too personal at this stage," he said gently. "For humans, the act of changing clothes is usually done in private, even though we don't consider our bodies themselves to be strictly private in all contexts." Zer's energy hair stilled, and Marcus worried he'd offended her. But then she nodded. Boundary respected, alternative learning method. Perhaps explain typical privacy zones in human dwelling. Relieved at the reasonable compromise, Marcus agreed. "That's a great idea. In a typical human home, the most private areas would be bedrooms and bathrooms. We change clothes, sleep, and perform personal hygiene activities in these spaces, usually with the doors closed. And entry requires permission," Zer confirmed, seemingly comparing to her own cultural framework. "Exactly. Living rooms, kitchens, and dining areas are more communal spaces where guests are welcome without specific permission once they're invited into the home." They spent the next hour discussing the nuances of human privacy norms versus Valoran customs of space sharing. Marcus learned that on Valora, the concept of private space existed, but was defined more by bioshield permissions than physical barriers. "Shield harmonics indicate receptivity to approach," Zer explained. "Color patterns signal desire for solitude or openness to interaction. Physical barriers considered redundant." "That explains why you asked about looking through my windows," Marcus realized. "Without a bioshield signaling my privacy preferences, you had no way to know when observation was acceptable." "Correct," Zer confirmed, seeming pleased at his understanding. "Visual barriers on Earth serve function of shield harmonics on Valora." As their conversation continued, Marcus found himself increasingly comfortable in Zer's presence. The initial awkwardness of their shirtless encounter had transformed into a foundation for genuine cultural exchange and growing friendship. "I should head back home," Marcus said eventually, noting the afternoon's advancement. "I have some lesson plans to prepare for Monday." "Appreciation for visitation," Zer replied, accompanying him to the door. Query: "Would participation in community gathering be acceptable? Neighborhood Association has planned integration event next weekend." "The potluck?" Marcus asked, remembering the flyer he'd received. "I'd be happy to go with you. It would be a good opportunity for you to meet more of the neighbors." "Potluck," Zer repeated carefully. "Communal nutrient-sharing ritual?" Marcus chuckled. "Something like that. Everyone brings a dish of food to share. Very informal, very friendly." "We'll prepare appropriate contribution," Zer said with determination. "Research Earth nutrition options." "I can help with that if you'd like," Marcus offered. "Not sure how your nutrient crystals would go over with the Henderson family down the street." Zer's energy hair rippled in what Marcus now recognized as amusement. Adaptation necessary for successful integration. Assistance would be valuable. As Marcus left Zer's home, he felt a sense of anticipation about the coming week. What had begun as an awkward encounter was blossoming into something unexpectedly meaningful. A bridge between worlds that started with a simple misunderstanding about shirts and shields. The days leading up to the neighborhood potluck were filled with regular interactions between Marcus and Zer. Each morning before work, Marcus would find Zer in his garden, observing the growth of the tomato seedlings they had planted together. Each evening, they would spend an hour or two exchanging cultural information, sometimes at his house, sometimes at hers. On Tuesday evening, Marcus introduced Zer to the concept of cooking. "You apply thermal energy directly to organic matter?" she asked, watching with fascination as he sautéed vegetables in a pan. "Exactly," Marcus confirmed, stirring the colorful mixture. "Heat changes the texture, releases flavors, and makes some foods more digestible or safe to eat." Zer observed closely. Her bioshield slightly retracted to allow her to experience the aromas more directly. Inefficient compared to molecular reconfiguration, but sensory experience appears enhanced. Marcus smiled. "That's a big part of it. Cooking engages multiple senses: smell, sight, eventually taste. It's as much art as it is science for many cultures." Under his guidance, Zer attempted to flip the vegetables in the pan, her movements precise but lacking the casual confidence that came with practice. A bell pepper slice went flying, landing on the countertop. "Trajectory miscalculation," Zer said, her energy hair rippling in what Marcus now knew was embarrassment. "Happens to everyone," he assured her, retrieving the wayward vegetable. "Cooking has a learning curve." By Thursday, they had settled on a dish Zer could bring to the potluck, a salad incorporating earth vegetables with a dressing infused with Valoran energy essences that gave the ordinary ingredients a subtle, pleasant glow and enhanced their natural flavors. "Non-invasive modification," Zer explained, as they tested the recipe. "Temporary enhancement of existing molecular properties. Safe for human consumption." Marcus had to admit, it was delicious. The flavors deeper and more complex than any salad he'd tasted before. "You'll be the hit of the potluck with this," he assured her. On Saturday morning, the day of the community gathering, Marcus awoke to an unexpected sound, his doorbell ringing repeatedly, with an urgency that immediately set him on alert. Throwing on a robe, he hurried to the door to find Zer standing there, her bioshield pulsating with what appeared to be distress, shifting rapidly between colors. "Marcus," she said the moment he opened the door, her voice higher than normal. "Emergency of cultural significance. Assistance required immediately." "What's wrong?" he asked, ushering her inside. "Are you hurt?" "Not physical distress," Zer clarified, her energy hair moving erratically. Preparation for community gathering created unexpected complication. Attempted to adapt appearance to human norms for greater integration success. It was only then that Marcus noticed what had Zer so agitated. Instead of her usual form-fitting bodysuit, she appeared to be wearing human clothing, or at least attempting to. She had on what looked like a summer dress, but it hung awkwardly on her frame, bunching in some places and stretched taut in others. More concerning was how her bioshield seemed to be interacting with the fabric, causing it to shimmer and occasionally ripple in ways that fabric definitely shouldn't. "I acquired Earth garment from commercial exchange facility," Zer explained rapidly. "Attempted to configure bioshield to accommodate external covering. Unexpected interface complications arose. Shield harmonics disrupted by fabric molecular structure." Marcus tried to suppress a smile, not wanting to add to her distress. "I see the problem. Your bioshield is trying to perform its usual functions while also accommodating the dress." "Affirmative," Zer confirmed anxiously. "Results in visual incongruity and potential malfunction of shield protection parameters. Public appearance in this configuration would draw undesired attention, contradicting integration objectives." Marcus considered the situation. "You don't need to wear human clothes to fit in, Zer. The exchange program materials all mentioned that Valorans would maintain their bioshields. No one expects you to dress like a human." "Desire for respectful adaptation," Zer explained, her energy hair still moving agitatedly. Observation of Earth customs indicated appropriate attire for social gatherings. Attempted to honor tradition. Marcus was touched by her consideration. That's really thoughtful of you, but unnecessary. You honor our customs by participating, not by changing your appearance. He hesitated, then added gently, would it help if I explained what to expect at the potluck? So you feel more prepared? Zer's bioshield began to stabilize slightly, the colors shifting more slowly. Information would reduce uncertainty. Yes. For the next hour. Marcus walked Zer through typical potluck etiquette, how food would be arranged, the casual nature of the conversations, the likelihood of children running around playing games, and the general expectation that people would mingle and chat. No formal structure, Zer confirmed, her energy hair finally settling into its normal, gentle movement. Very little, Marcus assured her. People arrive, put their food on the tables, get a plate and serve themselves, then find somewhere to sit or stand while they eat and talk. It's one of our most relaxed social gatherings. By the time they had finished talking, Zer had removed the troublesome dress and restored her bioshield to its normal configuration, though she had adjusted its color pattern to a warm, welcoming golden hue that Marcus hadn't seen before. Communal harmony frequency, she explained when he commented on it, indicates openness to interaction and peaceful intentions. It's beautiful, Marcus told her sincerely, and much more you than that dress was. Zer's energy hair rippled in what Marcus now recognized as pleasure. Authenticity preferred to imitation, wisdom in your guidance. Marcus. When they arrived at the community park where the potluck was being held, Marcus could sense Zer's nervousness in the slight intensification of her bioshield's glow. He gave her an encouraging smile as they approached the gathering of neighbors, her luminescent salad bowl hovering just above her outstretched hands. You'll be fine, he assured her quietly. Just be yourself. Several heads turned as they approached, conversations momentarily pausing. Then Mrs. Henderson, the neighborhood association president, hurried forward with a broad smile. You must be our new Valoran resident, she exclaimed, stopping just short of Zer, clearly uncertain about the appropriate greeting. I am Zer, she confirmed, her voice steady despite the slight fluctuation in her bioshield. Gratitude for community welcome invitation. We're delighted you could join us, Mrs. Henderson replied warmly. And you've brought something to share. How wonderful. Zer glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Earth vegetation enhanced with Valoran energy harmonics, she explained, guiding the hovering bowl toward the food tables. Non-invasive modification, safe for human consumption. A small crowd had gathered, watching with undisguised curiosity as the glowing salad was placed among the more mundane potluck offerings of casseroles, fried chicken, and pasta salads. That's amazing, said a teenage girl, leaning in to examine the gently pulsating vegetables. How does it float like that? Gravitational field manipulation, Zer explained, seeming to relax slightly at the genuine interest. Basic skill taught to Valoran children for object management. Like we teach kids to carry things without dropping them, Marcus added helpfully, noting some confused expressions among the neighbors. Understanding dawned on several faces, and the ice seemed to break. More neighbors approached, introducing themselves and asking questions that Zer answered with increasing confidence. Marcus stayed nearby but gradually stepped back, allowing her to establish her own connections. The gathering progressed smoothly for about an hour. Zer's salad became the most discussed dish at the potluck, with brave souls trying it first and then encouraging others when they discovered its enhanced flavors. Marcus watched with pride as Zer explained the process to an enthusiastic group of listeners, her energy hair flowing gracefully as she described the harmonic frequencies used to intensify natural flavor compounds. Then came the moment Marcus had been half expecting, half dreading. Tom Bradshaw, known throughout the neighborhood for his outspoken opinions and general skepticism, approached the group around Zer. "So you're changing our food now?" he asked, his tone just sharp enough to catch attention. "Isn't it enough that your people are setting up those communication arrays downtown?" A hush fell over the nearby conversations. Zer's bioshield flickered briefly, its golden hue darkening slightly. "Temporary enhancement only," she replied carefully. "No permanent modification to molecular structure. Consumption optional." "That's not the point," Bradshaw continued, warming to his subject. "First it's glowing salad. Then what? Re-engineering our pets? Our kids?" Marcus stepped forward, placing himself slightly between Bradshaw and Zer. "Tom, that's completely unfair. Zer brought a dish to share, just like everyone else. The Valorant exchange program has been nothing but beneficial." "Says who?" Bradshaw interrupted. "The same government that keeps telling us everything's fine while taxes go up and jobs go overseas? Now we're supposed to welcome aliens with open arms. No questions asked." More neighbors had gathered now, the festive atmosphere giving way to tension. Marcus could sense Zer's discomfort in the way her bioshield had contracted closer to her body, its color now a muted gray. Before Marcus could respond, Mrs. Henderson intervened. "Tom, this is hardly the time or place for political arguments. We're here to welcome a new neighbor, not debate government policies." "It's a fair question," another voice chimed in. Harold Chen from down the street. "How do we know what these modifications really do? No offense," he added, glancing at Zer, "but humans and Valorans have very different physiologies." The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Marcus looked at Zer, whose energy hair had nearly stilled, a sign of deep distress. He'd learned. He needed to say something to defend her. But he also knew that confrontation would only escalate tensions. Taking a deep breath, he spoke clearly, addressing the entire gathering rather than just Bradshaw. "You know, when Zer first moved in next door, I did something that by Valorant standards was incredibly shocking." Pauses, letting curiosity replace some of the hostility. "I answered my door without a shirt on." A few surprised chuckles broke the tension slightly. Marcus continued. "What seems completely normal to us, a guy without a shirt on a hot day, was for Zer the equivalent of me showing up at your doorstep in my underwear. Tom." More laughter now, and Bradshaw's face reddened slightly. "The point is," Marcus went on, "Zer could have been offended, could have reported me for inappropriate behavior under the exchange program guidelines. Instead, she asked questions. She tried to understand. And when she learned that our customs were different from hers, she accepted that with grace and curiosity." He gestured to the glowing salad. "This dish isn't an attempt to change us or our food. It's a beautiful gesture of sharing, bringing something unique from her world to enrich ours, just as we're sharing our community with her." The crowd had grown silent, contemplative. Even Bradshaw seemed to be considering Marcus's words. "Zer has shown incredible bravery," Marcus continued, his voice softening. "Imagine moving not just to a new neighborhood or country, but to an entirely different planet, learning new customs, adapting to our atmosphere, our foods, our social norms, all while maintaining her own identity and cultural practices." He turned to look directly at Zer, whose bioshield had begun to glow more warmly again. "The least we can do is show the same openness to learning that she has demonstrated since the moment she arrived." A moment of silence followed his words. Then, to everyone's surprise, Zer stepped forward, her bioshield expanding slightly as if gathering courage. "Gratitude for defense. Marcus," she said, her voice clear despite a slight tremor. "But understanding of concern also exists." She turned to address Bradshaw and the gathered neighbors directly. "Valorant belief holds that honesty creates trust. Marcus spoke of my shock at human openness. physical exposure accepted as normal. Her energy hair began to move more fluidly as she continued. This was difficult to comprehend initially. Bioshields on Valora serve as boundary between self and environment, permanent, essential. She made a graceful gesture, her bioshield rippling with subtle colors. Humans exist, exposed, to elements, to each other. This vulnerability, frightening to valor and understanding. Yet, from this openness comes strength, connection, community. Zir's gaze swept the gathering, making eye contact with several neighbors, including Bradshaw. Valorans seek knowledge, harmony, exchange of ideas, not dominance, not change for sake of change, protection of unique cultural identities valued above all. She gestured to her salad. Enhancement offered as gift, not imposition. Choice remains with each individual to accept or decline. The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable, and Marcus could see its effect on the neighbors' faces, softening, considering. Many now looking ashamed of the momentary hostility. Mrs. Henderson was the first to respond. Well said, Zur. And thank you for reminding us all that cultural exchange goes both ways. She turned to the gathering. Now, I believe we still have plenty of food to enjoy and conversations to have. Let's remember why we're here today, to welcome new neighbors and strengthen our community bonds. The tension dissipated like morning mist under sunshine. Conversations resumed. People returned to the food tables, and the potluck continued. Marcus noticed with satisfaction that several neighbors, including Harold Chen, made a point of trying Zir's salad and complimenting her on it. Even Tom Bradshaw eventually approached, mumbling something that might have been an apology, before taking a small portion on his plate. As the afternoon progressed, something remarkable began to happen. What had started as a moment of conflict transformed into a catalyst for genuine exchange. A group of children, initially shy around Zir, approached to ask if she could make other things float. Soon, Zir was demonstrating simple gravitational manipulations, lifting leaves and small pebbles in graceful patterns, while the children watched in delight. Meanwhile, adults who had been hesitant to engage began asking more thoughtful questions about Valoran culture and customs. Marcus overheard conversations about everything from Valoran art forms to educational systems, governance structures to family units. Most touching to Marcus was seeing how Zir gradually relaxed into these interactions. Her bioshield, which had been tightly controlled at the beginning of the event, now fluctuated with her emotions more freely, brightening when she laughed, softening when she listened intently to someone's story. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Mrs. Henderson called for everyone's attention. Before we start packing up, I'd like to propose something, she announced. In honor of our successful first community event with our Valoran neighbor, let's make this an annual tradition, Earth and Valora United Day. Applause and cheers greeted her suggestion. Zir's bioshield glowed brilliantly with emotion as she stepped forward to stand beside Mrs. Henderson. Honored by inclusion, she said simply, her energy hair flowing in elegant patterns. Community acceptance, most valuable exchange of all. The gathering began to disperse as twilight deepened, neighbors helping to clean up and carry leftover food to cars. Marcus and Zir stayed until the end, assisting Mrs. Henderson with the final tasks. You two make quite a team, the older woman observed as they folded the last table. It's wonderful to see such friendship developing across cultural boundaries. Friendship, unexpected benefit of exchange program, Zir replied, her golden glow soft in the gathering darkness. Valued beyond scientific or cultural knowledge gained. As they walked home together under the emerging stars, Marcus felt a profound sense of accomplishment. You were amazing today, he told Zir. The way you handled that tension with Bradshaw and then connected with everyone. I don't think the potluck could have gone better. Initial conflict created opening for deeper understanding, Zir observed. Perhaps necessary catalyst. Maybe so, Marcus agreed. Sometimes it takes a little friction to generate light. Zer's energy hair rippled in amusement. Appropriate metaphor from physics. Accurate in social dynamics as well. They paused at the point where their paths would diverge to their respective homes. Above them, the night sky revealed stars that, to Zer, represented not just distant suns but home, a perspective Marcus could barely imagine. Curious development, Zer said suddenly, her voice thoughtful. Initial meeting involved human physical exposure, creating cultural misunderstanding. The shirtless incident, Marcus nodded, smiling at the memory that now seemed so distant. Yet today, metaphorical exposure of fears, questions, cultural differences created opposite effect, understanding, connection. Marcus considered this. That's profound. Zer, maybe true connection always requires some kind of vulnerability, being willing to be seen, whether physically or emotionally. Valoran philosophy teaches, shields protect, but also isolate. Zer replied softly. Temporary lowering necessary for growth. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the day's events settling into something meaningful between them. Would observation of night sky be acceptable activity? Zer asked finally. Stellar configurations from Earth, perspective of scientific interest. I'd like that, Marcus replied. My backyard has a better view, fewer streetlights. They made their way to Marcus's yard, where he quickly set up 2 lawn chairs. As they settled in to stargaze, Zer's bioshield cast a gentle glow that illuminated their immediate surroundings without diminishing the visibility of the stars. That constellation there, Marcus said, pointing, we call the Big Dipper, part of Ursa Major, the Great Bear. Interesting, Zer replied. From Valora, same stars form pattern called the Harmonizer's Hand. Different perspective, different pattern, Marcus mused. But the stars themselves remain constant. Like cultural differences, Zer suggested. Same fundamental elements. Need for community, safety, understanding. Arranged according to different historical perspectives. They continued this way for some time, sharing the names and stories of stars and constellations as seen from their respective worlds. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by comfortable silences, as they simply appreciated the vastness above them. Something I have wondered, Zer said eventually. Why did you defend me so quickly today? Cultural obligation as first contact neighbor. Marcus considered the question carefully. Not obligation. No. I defended you because it was the right thing to do. Because in the short time I've known you, I've come to respect and value you. Not just as a representative of Valora, but as an individual, as a friend. Zer's energy hair moved in a pattern Marcus hadn't seen before. Something almost like a blossoming flower. Friendship concept exists on Valora, but different, more formalized. Earth version more spontaneous, adaptable. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Marcus asked, genuinely curious. Neither. Both. Different. Zer's bioshield pulsed gently, but valued deeply. As the night deepened around them, they fell into another comfortable silence. Marcus found himself reflecting on how a simple misunderstanding, his shirtless appearance that first morning, had initiated this unexpected journey of cultural exchange and genuine connection. Observation, Zer said suddenly. Initial incident now seems fortunate error. Marcus chuckled. I was just thinking the same thing. If I hadn't overslept that day and answered the door half-dressed, we might never have had reason to start these conversations. Accidental vulnerability created pathway to intentional understanding. Zer agreed, her energy hair flowing in gentle patterns. The following morning, Marcus awoke to find a small object on his front porch, a delicate crystalline structure that shimmered with subtle energy. Attached was a note in Zer's precise handwriting. Translator device, adapted for human physiology, will convert basic bioshield harmonic signals to emotional context. Gift of appreciation for cultural guidance and friendship. Zur. Touched by the gesture, Marcus immediately thought of how he might reciprocate. After a moment's consideration, he headed to his closet and pulled out a soft cotton t-shirt he rarely wore, one with a design showing the Earth and its continents from space. It seemed an appropriate symbol of their ongoing exchange. Later that day, when he presented the shirt to Zur, her reaction exceeded his expectations. With visible concentration, she adjusted her bioshield to accommodate the garment, creating a perfect integration that allowed the shirt to rest comfortably over her form while her shield continued its protective functions underneath. Adaptation requires practice, she explained, her energy hair rippling with evident pleasure. Worth effort for symbol of friendship. Standing together in Marcus's garden, they made quite a sight, Zur in her Earth t-shirt, Marcus wearing the translator device that occasionally glowed with colors corresponding to Zur's emotional states. Different, yet complementary, each incorporating elements of the other's world into their own. Seems we've both learned to lower our shields a bit, Marcus observed with a smile. And strengthen them in more meaningful ways, Zur added, her translator device conveying warm hues of friendship and trust. Above them, the sky stretched blue and limitless, the same sky that covered both human neighborhoods and distant Valoran settlements. Different worlds under the same stars, connected now by something as simple and profound as understanding born from an accidental moment of vulnerability. A shirtless human and a shielded alien, finding common ground in the quiet miracle of mutual respect.